Hello class, so here is your next assignment on Excel. It's called the Home Budget Analysis. I've asked you to key in the following data, so you should key in all these data. You should save it as MS Excel, Home Budget Analysis dash your name. So once you key that in, you're going to do the following things. You're going to fill in the missing information, which is highlighted in yellow. You're going to fill out column J. So column J is a little bit of a challenge. Let's see if you can come up with it. I'm going to explain it to you, what you're supposed to do. You're going to graph all the categories for each year, and you're going to graph the total. Don't forget, you have to format your table. You have to change your appropriate units. So you've got numbers here. So if we're talking about money, it should be in currency. Format the table, add color, use appropriate underlining, etc. So when you key in the data, it's going to look like this. You've got for 3 years. I want you to fill in, one is to fill in the missing information. So this is what we've done before. We're going to find the sum of each year. So here's the sum for that year. And the formula shows it's the sum of B3 to B13, which is correct. And to do the same formula using each column across, you could just scroll across. And if you look to double check, it's C3 to C13 and D3 to 13. Same thing as here as for the average. We're going to find the average of these 3 years. Correct? B3 to D3. Again, I'm going to scroll down. We're going to do the min. Now, it says from B3 to E3. We do not want that. We only want for those 3 years. So B3 to D3. And once we do that, we can scroll down. And same thing goes for max. So it's picking up columns E to F. We don't want that. We just want these 3. Correct. And I'm going to scroll down. Now I want the total expenses. Do you notice that these numbers automatically change to currency? It's because I already had it at currency. If you notice, it will say it's at currency. I've already clicked it. For total expenses, I want the total expenses for this year. So it's the sum. I only want for these 3. Okay. And then I can scroll down for each year. And I want the total for all years. Now the percentage total, here it is. Calculate column J. It says it's the percentage total. I want the amount spent for all 3 years for each category. So here's the amount spent for all 3 years for just clothing. If you look across, that is how much I spent from 2017 to 2019 for clothing, $2,500. And I wanted out of the total spent for all of the categories for all 3 years. So this would give me the total for all categories for all 3 years, this 40,000. And I want the percentage. And I've already changed it to percentage. I take equals I3 and divide it by the total, which is I14. And it's 6%. Remember, I've already changed it to percent. If I didn't had it a regular number, it would have been a decimal. But I've already changed this column to percent. And I don't have to have it at decimal spots. I just want a one whole number. Now, usually when we want to do the same formula for each row below, we usually just scroll down. But it didn't work. And why is that? Well, let's look. Normally, when let's for example look at total expenses, when we did the formula, we did the sum of B3 to D3. And when I scroll down to the next one, it automatically knew to move both rows to 4, because that's what I wanted. I wanted the sum of these for row 4. And it automatically knew that. But for this one, I don't want to change the denominator of I15. So right here it says I3, which is correct, divided by I14. In this number, I would have wanted I4, which is correct, which is this number, 555, but I would have wanted divided by I14, and it automatically just assumes that you're going to scroll down to the next row, and that's not what I don't. That's what I don't want. So here, in order to tell the spreadsheet that I want to divide each row at the top, which is my numerator, I3, next one would be I4, I'd want I5, I'd want I6, I7, and so forth. But the denominator, I want it to stay constant. I don't want it to change to I5, I15, I16. I want it to be I14. So what I have to do here is delete this, go back to my original formula. I need to tell the spreadsheet program that I want to keep I-14 as the denominator for every formula below this row. So I have to put the $sign around the I. This $sign around the I, or these I $signs around, tells the program to keep changing the numerator, the rows, I3 to I4 to I5 to I6, but do not change the denominator. I want it to be divided by I14. So I always want it to change here, the rows, but I don't want it to change the denominator of I14. So let's try it now. And you'll notice it has now just divided each row by the correct numerator, but it has kept the denominator constant. Okay? And this obviously should be 100%. So if I were to actually scroll down, that should be 100% because all of this should add up to 100%. Now it says graph all the categories for each year. So I want to graph the categories for each year. Let's see how it goes. I'm going to insert my graph. I'm going to take this graph and I'm going to put it on the second sheet. I'm going to rename it as graph. Here's my chart. Let's see how it looks. Remember, I always have to click on the data to make room for my y-axis and my x-axis. I can make this larger. So if I look here, it says that I've got my categories, my clothing, but it doesn't tell me what each bar stands for. It just says series 1, 2, and 3. So I've got to go back to my data and I've got to edit. It says series 1. I'm going to edit series 1. Series 1 should be 2017. Okay. Edit series 2 and it should say year 2018. I'm going to edit series 3 and it should say 2019. Press OK. I'm going to click OK. I've got my 3 years. And it's now given me a graph, a legend. And it indicates that every blue is for 2017, red is 2018, and green is 2019. So it looks pretty good. Then obviously I'm going to have to change the actual graph, so I have to label it. So I'm going to go to Design, Quick Layout. Let's pick the one that I've chosen, this one. So here is our graph. I'm going to label my x-axis and my y. So these are my categories. Here's my title. And here's my y-axis, which is money spent, which would include units, bracket units. There you go. And then the next part says to graph your total percentage. I think that you can do that on your own. So don't forget also to underline specific with. So since I added here, I have to add a nice thick border. I mean an underline. So there you go. That should be underlined. This should be underlined. And that's it. And also, don't forget to change your $signs to currency. Oh, so now I've noticed when I change it to currency, you have these number signs. That's just telling you that there's not enough room. So you just have to widen the cell. So you can double click the cell and it will give it automatically enough room. And there you go. That's it. Try it yourself now.